The value of gold is surging. As its spot price hits record highs, many are saying, we ain't seen nothing yet, which raises the question, who's buying it? What's contributing to this surge? Well, that's exactly what we're going to find out, and the answer is going to shock you. If you've been following gold prices over the last several months, then you know things are certainly looking up, literally. Over the last 6 months, the price of gold has shot up 23%, lifting the commodity to its highest price ever. But what's behind this massive surge in value? Well, it's actually rather astonishing. Now, if you're a regular to this channel, if not, make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button. But then you'll know that one of our major themes here is that a new world is rising. That's what we focus on analyzing each and every day here. We're living in the midst of a massive global paradigm shift where political and economic power is increasingly shifting away from the West, particularly here in the United States, and moving more and more eastward towards what's often referred to as Eurasia. And it's precisely that massive shift from west to east that's contributing to this massive surge in the price of gold. When all is said and done, Western nations are no longer the chief buyer of gold, and therefore are no longer in the driver's seat in determining gold's price. That privilege now belongs to China, and by a lot. China today accounts for upwards of 2/3 of global gold purchases, making it the undisputed current king of gold. And it ain't just China. It's now widely recognized that non-Western central banks are buying up gold big time, and that buying spree appears to be just getting started. Forbes recently featured an article that found that more and more central banks around the world are starting to sell off and even avoid U.S. Treasury securities. Now, a decade ago, foreign central banks and investors, they owned 43% of our national debt. Today, that number's just dropped to 30%. And central banks are serious about this. Again, a decade ago, central banks acquired just 4% of the world's gold supply. Today, that number shot up to 35%. And this is why the price of gold is expected to continue to climb. Because when all is said and done, more and more nations are dropping the US dollar and instead turning to gold as a hedge to that declining dollar. Gang, that's why I partnered with the amazing company Goldco, because they're patriots just like you and me. And they want to help guide you into getting into precious metals completely tax-free and penalty-free. They're really amazing, and I simply couldn't recommend a company more. In fact, if you click on that link below right now, you can actually get your very own absolutely free gold and silver kit. It's a completely free resource that shows you step-by-step how to get into precious metals, even if your money's still in a retirement account like an IRA or 401k. And just to show you how awesome the patriots over at Goldco are, the best part here is that you may actually already qualify to get up to $10,000 in free silver. I mean, I told you they're the best. So what are you waiting for? Get in on the action by clicking on the link below or going to turleytalkslikesgold.com and get your free gold and silver kit today. Promises to be a real life changer. But that's really the key in all of this. You don't buy gold to make money per se. It's more than that. You buy gold because you don't trust the dollar. It's because you believe the dollar's inflating itself out of existence, as it were. By contrast, as each dollar decreases in value, each ounce of gold, at least ideally, increases in value. That's why people buy gold. They buy gold so they own real money that doesn't decrease in value because of inflation. For example, a lot of people don't even realize 100 ounces of gold, so basically 100 gold dollars, can buy you a very nice house today, a couple $100,000 house. But that's key here in that it could have done the same thing 100 years ago. In other words, 100 gold dollars had comparable spending power a century ago as it does today. And that's because gold is a commodity. That means its value goes up along with all other commodities like silver and oil and the like. However, again, by contrast, whereas 100 years ago, you could buy a relatively decent house for about $6,000. Try doing that today. You need about $80,000 to buy today what $6,000 could have bought you 100 years ago. And that's because dollars are a currency, not a commodity. And as a currency, the value of the dollar can be artificially undermined by virtue of the Federal Reserve printing as many of those dollars as it wants. In other words, you can't invent commodities, but you can invent currencies. But I think the real reason why so many international central banks are pulling out of the dollar is because they continue to be rather shocked at the way the dollar was so blatantly weaponized against Russia. It's not that these countries support what Russia's doing in Ukraine, but they certainly don't support the notion of sanctioning central banks and seizing foreign reserves like the U.S. did with Russia. Because, I mean, if the U.S. can do that to the Russian Federation, then who can't they do that to? And that fear, the concern that the U.S. may indeed at some point weaponize the dollar against other nations, is causing more and more central banks to seek assets that are outside of the U.S.'s sanctioning mechanisms. And lo and behold, that means gold. Real money, real estate that these nations could actually physically own and that cannot be taken away from them. That's what's really driving, in my opinion, I think, that's what's ultimately driving this price surge in gold. More and more nations are looking for asset investments that bypass the finance structures that surround the U.S. dollar. And that's why a number of investors believe that the surge in the price of gold, in many ways, is just getting started. Again, make sure to click on that link below, visit our friends over at Gold Code, download your own free gold and silver kit, and learn how to protect your finances and, most importantly, your freedom.